to the driver. You're not the shooter, are you?
Hello, I need an ambulance. Please hurry up. Okay, so female's down. She's been shot. Please don't move. They coming, okay? Please don't move. We got the kids. Did anybody see what kind of car it was? My boyfriend and his dad just got shot.
9-10 gunshots right outside our apartment complex.
Hello? 911. We need someone here. Okay, ma'am.
Between 2017 and 2020, Uber reported nearly 10,000 cases of assault and over 120 fatalities linked to its platform in the U.S. alone.
An Uber driver in Michigan is suspected of going on a rampage, fatally shooting strangers in between taking fares.
As many of you read, 6 people were gunned down in a rampage in Kalamazoo.
These reports cover everything from minor disturbances to cold-blooded murder.
What are you doing in front of my house? Who are you? Who are you? What are you doing in front of my house? I'm an Uber driver.
On an ordinary winter evening in Kalamazoo, Michigan, the police force is suddenly overwhelmed. Frantic 911 calls pour in by the dozen. Callers report a man in a dark SUV firing at strangers, then vanishing into the night. At first, no one understands what's happening or why. But police know one thing. A 14-year-old girl named Abigail Kopf has survived. And if she can hold on long enough to speak, she might help stop a killer who seems determined to keep going. Not far from the edge of downtown, 45-year-old Jason Dalton sits in his driveway inside a silver Chevrolet Equinox. He's dressed in jeans and a plain black jacket. A black pistol sits hidden under the driver's seat. Dalton opens the Uber app on his phone. The screen glows faint blue in the darkening car. He watches as the route search begins, a spinning circle sliding across the map. To anyone watching, he's just another driver about to start his shift. Nothing about the moment feels unusual, but soon Dalton will step out of his vehicle and begin a 6-hour rampage that leaves 6 people dead, 2 critically wounded, and an entire community in shock. Far in the Kalamazoo suburbs, 25-year-old Tiana Carruthers is spending the evening caring for her 7-year-old daughter, Kania, along with her niece and 3 other children. Tiana had her daughter when she was still a teenager. She's been raising her alone ever since. She's used to juggling everything, work, bills, childcare, without ever letting it show. When Kania asks if they can walk across the street to meet a friend, Tiana agrees, but only if she comes along to keep an eye on them. The kids laugh as they cross the pavement, not noticing the silver SUV crawling up the block behind them. At first Tiana barely glances at the driver, a heavy-set man with grey hair and wide staring eyes. He stops in the middle of the street and calls out to her in a flat voice, "I'm here to pick you up." The tone feels wrong. Tiana forces a polite smile and tells the kids to keep walking. She answers calmly that she didn't order an Uber. The SUV peels away with a screech of tires, disappearing around the corner. For a moment she thinks it's over. Then, out of the darkness, the same vehicle circles back. The headlights sweep across the sidewalk, fixing her and the children in place. The driver's hand is already moving inside his jacket. Tiana doesn't have time to think. She screams for the kids to run. 5 small bodies scatter behind her as she steps forward, trying to block their path with her own. She sees the black pistol come up and watches the trigger pull in slow motion. Bullets slam into her legs, her shoulder, her side. The pain is instant and blinding. She tries to stay upright, still reaching back to push the children further away. When her body finally collapses onto the sidewalk, her only thought is whether they made it to safety.
You at county emergency? Yeah, hello, I need an ambulance, please. Please hurry up. Somebody fire shots in Savannah Trace Townhome. Okay, so female's down. She's been shot. Coming. I'm gonna need it. Don't move. I don't know. The car sped off. Please. Please don't move. Please don't move. They coming, okay? Please don't move. We got the kids. Please don't move.
After shooting Tiana Carruthers, Jason Dalton drives away like nothing happened. He doesn't call 911. He doesn't tell a soul. Instead, he taps his phone screen, accepts the next ride request, and picks up a passenger less than 15 minutes later. For hours, Dalton alternates between ordinary fares and random acts of violence. Each time he drops someone off safely, the illusion resets. He becomes just another driver again, blending back into the dark suburban roads. Around 10 p.m., Dalton pulls into the lot of Silly Kia, a local car dealership. 2 men stand near a row of parked vehicles, talking. Richard Smith and his 17-year-old son Tyler are spending a quiet Saturday night together, looking at cars they might buy when the weather warms up. Neither of them notices the silver Equinox easing to a stop behind them. The engine clicks off. Dalton lifts the pistol, aims through the open window, and opens fire. Richard is killed instantly. Tyler tries to run, but a second bullet strikes him before he can get away. By the time police arrive, both men are already gone. Dalton doesn't linger. He pulls back onto the highway and disappears into the traffic. It isn't long before his headlights appear again, this time in the parking lot of a Cracker Barrel restaurant. Inside the car, Dalton reloads his weapon, checks the Uber app, and waits. It's 10 p.m. on February 20th, 2016. 14-year-old Abbie Kopf sits at a Cracker Barrel table with her best friend and surrogate grandmother, 68-year-old Barbara Hawthorne. Abbie has always felt more comfortable around older people. She's quiet, thoughtful, happier listening than speaking. Earlier that night, they'd gone to see a play downtown. Now they're sharing a warm meal with 3 of Barbara's friends before heading home. The conversation is easy, knitting class schedules, Abbie's favorite books, plans for the weekend. Nobody notices the silver Equinox gliding into the parking lot. As the group steps outside, Barbara reminds Abbie not to forget her yarn for next week. The teenager smiles and slips into the passenger seat. Barbara settles behind the wheel. In the back, the other women are still buckling their seatbelts when a black car pulls up fast behind them, blocking their exit. The headlights flood the interior with blinding white light. For a moment, nobody moves. Then a single deafening bang shatters the windshield. The women start screaming. Abbie drops to the floorboards between her seat and the dashboard. More shots follow, each louder than the last. Glass explodes inward, spraying across the seats and onto Abbie's hair. Barbara twists in her seat and throws her body over Abbie's curled-up frame. Another round tears through the driver's side window. Abbie doesn't see the shooter's face, but through the haze of broken glass, she can see the barrel of the pistol pointing straight at her. Inside the ambulance, first responders work frantically to keep Abbie Kopf alive. Beside her, Barbara Hawthorne's pulse is fading fast. They reach the hospital in under 10 minutes. Despite every effort, Barbara is pronounced dead shortly after arrival. In the ICU, 14-year-old Abbie is unconscious. Doctors wrap her head in thick bandages where the bullet shattered her skull. The staff calls her mother, Vicky Kopf. When the phone rings, Vicky doesn't understand at first.
Lord, where was she shot at? And they wouldn't answer me, and I said, do I have time to make it there? Tell me right now, is she dead? And the lady on the phone said, no, she's not dead. And I said, then where was she shot at? And she said, well, honey, it's serious. And I said, where was she shot at? And she said she was shot in the head.
We made it towards the hospital, and they had the hospital locked down. They walked us up to this room in the ICU, and that's when I saw Abbie for the first time.
Vicky races to the hospital. When she steps into the ICU, her daughter is lying motionless beneath a white sheet. A machine breathes for her. Blood seeps through the bandages and pools along the edge of the bed. Vicky later describes the scene as something out of a horror film. An hour later, the monitors begin to slow. Abbie flatlines. A nurse calls the time of death. Vicky can only watch as they unplug the equipment and draw the sheet over Abbie's face. She leans over her daughter, sobbing into the fabric. A nurse begins preparing for organ donation paperwork. And then, something moves. Vicky feels it under her hand. She tells the nurse, but the woman only shakes her head. Honey, most bodies twitch after they die. It's normal, but Vicky feels it again. Please, just check her. The nurse lays a hand on Abbie's chest. A pulse. Doctors flood the room. Machines are switched back on. IV lines reconnected. Even as they work, one nurse quietly warns Vicky not to get too hopeful. Even if Abbie survives, she may never wake up again.
Her hand just slightly went like that. She was trying to draw the letter B in the palm.
She was asking about Grandma Barb, who was killed in the shooting. Police believe she shielded Abbie, taking 3 bullets in the chest while she pushed Abbie down.
She saved Abbie's life.
Later, Vicky sits by the bed, holding Abbie's hand. She leans close and whispers, "If you can hear me, this is Mama. If you can hear me at all, give me a sign." Minutes pass. Then, slowly, Abbie's fingers move across her palm, trying to trace the letter B. She is asking about Grandma Barb. While doctors fight to save Abbie Kopf's life, law enforcement across Kalamazoo is scrambling to stop the shooter. Police dispatch channels are flooded with calls. Witnesses describe a silver Equinox, a heavy-set man with gray hair. Random victims, no warning, no motive. Officers begin pulling over any car that looks even close to the description. 10 stops, nothing. Each time it's another driver heading home, confused and terrified by the sudden show of force. Inside the patrol cars, the radio crackles non-stop. Updates, false alarms, fresh reports of gunfire. Then a call comes in. A black SUV is spotted leaving the Cracker Barrel parking lot. It's driving slowly, too slowly. A patrol unit falls in behind it. Lights off. The Equinox rolls through a stop sign, speeds up, then slows again as if the driver is debating what to do. Dispatch orders backup to close in from both sides. The SUV finally pulls to the curb and stops. Officers brace for a firefight. They slide out of their vehicles, body armor strapped tight, rifles raised. Each step toward the driver's side feels endless. They expect bullets to start flying any second. But then Jason Dalton does something nobody anticipates. He slowly extends both arms out the open window, palms flat, fingers spread wide. He doesn't say a word. The arrest is over in seconds. Dalton is cuffed and led away without resistance. In the quiet that follows, one of the officers later admits it felt almost disappointing. Not because they wanted violence, but because they'd spent hours preparing to die. After Jason Dalton's arrest, investigators shift their focus from capturing him to understanding why he did it. In the interrogation room, Dalton seems calm at first. He answers questions politely. Then his story starts to unravel. According to him, the Uber app on his phone transformed into something else, a horned devil's head that took over his mind. Each time the app flashed red, he claimed it meant he was receiving orders to kill. Detectives don't interrupt. They don't correct him or show disbelief. Every time Dalton pauses, they nod slowly, asking him to continue. The goal is simple: keep him talking long enough to lock his version of events into the official record. With each hour, Dalton's explanations grow stranger. He insists he felt like a puppet, controlled by forces he couldn't resist. No one in the room believes his story, but they pretend to. If Dalton is found legally insane, he could avoid prison altogether, spending just a few years in a secure psychiatric hospital instead of the rest of his life behind bars. The prosecutors know they need evidence that he was aware of his actions. They start building a strategy to prove Dalton planned the attacks: receipts, GPS logs, eyewitness accounts of him driving calmly between shootings. Meanwhile, detectives gently guide the conversation back over every crime, coaxing Dalton to admit details only the killer would know. Each time he tries to shift blame to the demonic app, they steer him back to what he did, what he chose. The insanity defense will come down to whether Dalton truly lost touch with reality, or whether he simply wanted an excuse to escape the consequences. While investigators combed through Jason Dalton's story, Tiana Carruthers was fighting for her life. Surgeons spent hours repairing the damage. Both legs were shattered by bullets. Her clavicle splintered. One round lodged deep inside her liver, too risky to remove. Tiana survived the night, but she faced months of pain just to learn how to walk again. Rehabilitation was slow. Every step came with blinding agony, but she kept going. Some days, she thought about giving up. Other days, she remembered the children she'd protected, and that was enough to keep moving forward. When she was strong enough to sit upright without help, Tiana began speaking to reporters. In her first interviews,
it can be hard, and I know it's challenging to deal with tragedies and struggles, but there is more to life than where you come from. Just build on it and want more for yourself.
She described the moment she realized the SUV had returned. How she didn't feel brave, just terrified the kids wouldn't escape. I don't think about myself as a hero. I was just the only thing standing between them and that gun, Tiana said. Soon her story spread far beyond Kalamazoo. Newspapers called her courageous. Parents called her an angel. At an award ceremony held at her daughter's elementary school, Tiana stood on crutches as the principal read a statement. "Them 4 kids you was babysitting, they living 'cause of you. The rest of them kids in that parking lot you told to run, they living 'cause of you. That's 'cause of you." Tiana wiped tears from her eyes and thanked the crowd. She reminded them that 6 families never got to hear their loved ones' voices again, and that the real heroes were the people who didn't make it home. Without Tiana Carruthers, the death toll that night could have been much higher. 3 months later, the court assembles for the preliminary hearing. The families of the victims fill the benches, their faces drawn and hollow. Reporters line the back wall, notebooks ready. The air in the courtroom feels heavy, like everyone is holding the same breath. Tiana Carruthers is the first witness called to the stand. She braces her crutches against the railing and steadies herself before she begins. All eyes are on her. As the only adult survivor able to testify, the weight of the entire case rests on her shoulders. Her voice shakes as she describes the silver SUV circling back a second time, the way she felt her bones break when the bullets tore through her body, and how she tried to keep standing just long enough for the children to get away. At one point, the judge stops the proceedings to give her a moment to breathe. Tiana lowers her head and wipes her face, but she doesn't leave the witness stand. She tells herself she has to finish, for the people who can't. During her recovery, Tiana turned to writing to cope with her trauma. On the final day of testimony, the prosecutor asks if she wants to share something she wrote. Tiana nods. She unfolds a single sheet of paper and begins to read aloud. "Do you see me? Do you really see me? Can you be my mother for once? I skipped school today. I met a boy. I also put your children on the school bus. Oh, I fed them, by the way. Hey, Mum, Mother, can you hear me? I'm right here." Her voice breaks before she can finish the last line. In the front row, her own mother presses a hand to her mouth and begins to cry. For a moment, the courtroom is silent except for the sound of people weeping. Tiana folds the paper back into her pocket and looks up, steady again. In the months after the trial, Abigail Kopf began to wake up. First came small movements, her fingers twitching against the bedsheets. Then she opened her eyes. Doctors called her recovery a miracle. Slowly she learned to sit up, to speak, to remember pieces of that night. Today, Abbie continues her rehabilitation surrounded by her family. She still has visible scars. She still has days when the memories come back too vividly. But she survived, and that survival has given strength to countless others. Tiana Carruthers also returned home after months in the hospital. She walks with braces on her legs. Every step reminds her of what she sacrificed to protect those children, but she has never said she regrets it. She has spoken to classrooms, community groups, and other survivors about courage, trauma, and healing. Her story has become a symbol of what it means to stand up, even when you are terrified. Jason Dalton eventually pled guilty to 6 counts of murder and 2 counts of attempted murder. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. For the families of the victims, it will never be enough to fill the empty spaces left behind, but it is a measure of accountability they had waited years to see. If you or someone you love has experienced violence or trauma, please know that help is available. You are not alone, und our stories tot trekte schon befeiten is a borroway mg kandiktrit stoward short in a regensteret.